Ayo, what it did, y'all. Let's get right into it. Coming at you live with a crafting guide real quick, just because now that I am playing my Hexblaster and I started making this gear, I realized I didn't actually talk a lot about how to craft the gear for the Hexblast guide that I did make, but also just generally because I know that these types of amulets are well sought after, whether it be for private crafting or because you just want it for your own character. So I wanted to show how I'm going to go about making one of the three amulets you see up here on the screen, which is the +1 amulet that I recommend you should start. And if you look at my Hexblast POB, for example, this amulet is almost in there verbatim, actually, in terms of how this item looks. Then there's a +2 amulet, which is a very, very strong endgame option. And then I have a top end option in a focused amulet for an insane +4 amulet that you can make that I will also then show you how to create. And I have one more thing that you can do for really sending these to their upper limit, right? So, before I get into it, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps me out. I'm helping you out. You help me out. It's a great relationship. Subscribe with notifications on if you want to know when I'm posting more. Let's get into the crafting real quick. In here, the first thing to do is get yourself a nice fractured base. I personally am a fan of fractured life because fractured prefixes let us, have the most range of motion with our suffixes. And life is a really, really strong prefix to get fractured. It is worth noting that through the method I'm about to show you to make this +1, you can make a +2 if you just had a fractured +1 all instead. The cost difference is about 17 divines on this base though at the moment. And if you are if you're okay with having a trash tier base, it reduces the difference to about like 12 to 13 divines. Like you're still looking at 10 plus div just to get a power amulet with +1 all on it. So, you know, do what you will with that information. I value the strength a little too highly to just pay 10 div for a subpar base, and I'd have to then recraft again if I wanted the real base later on. So I just go for life and then get +1 later. How we're gonna do this is step one, you were spamming scorn essences for suffixes that you like. Wow. Okay. So I said spamming scorn essences for suffixes you like, and I just hit like great suffixes off the rip. Okay, so this is one variation of how the suffixes can come out. And when they come out like this, and your suffixes are good, things that you're checking for are full suffixes, and ideally 3 good suffixes, right? These are 3 good suffixes: strength, all res, and the essence crit multi. Therefore, we're good there, and you need at least 1 open prefix at this step. If you didn't have any open prefixes, you would have to send in a null and hope it hits. We have our empty prefixes, so now we can just get in there with some suffixes cannot be changed action, which is worth noting. In something like Craft of Exile, I have to do it through the crafting bench option to put suffixes cannot be changed, right? But it's worth noting that in trade, especially, you can just go by the wild bristle matron beast to add a metacraft onto the item, which the only prefix metacraft is suffixes cannot be changed, saving you about a div and a half or so in the process of just buying that beast instead. It costs you a little bit of trading time though, so if you don't want to go to trade, I understand. Now, once you've got this on here, it's a simple aug chaos, which will guaranteed add +1 chaos, as it is the only chaos prefix on an amulet, and remove the suffix cannot be changed. At which point, now we just craft whatever we want for our prefix, which I'm always going to recommend minus cost. Recraft this until it hits -7. Boom. Amulet's done. Now, going back a step, because that was a little quick, in the case where let's just say, like, for example, this isn't here, I would recommend, especially on something that hit this nicely, I would strongly recommend suffixes cannot be changed and go for the Veil Orb here. He had a prefix, sadly. So, you'd have to do this a couple times so you hit a suffix. There we go. We had a suffix on the 3rd try. If you really wanted to go for it. But again, that's kind of expensive right now. That's more of a SSF thing than a trade thing, IMO, just because of the fact that Veiled Orbs are really expensive in trade. But you could try to, hit a really strong suffix. Sadly, all of these suffixes suck. But you could try to hit either a hybrid res one, or we can hit our ideal suffix, which, by the way, the ideal suffix is mind throwing speed, just as another option. Another step that you could take instead of that here is harvest reforging just chaos outright, reforge chaos. because it'll always hit chaos res, or it'll hit +1 chaos, right? Like if I do this enough times, you'll see that hits you 1 chaos. Definitely would have been okay with that. That's another chaos, and then we have to clear off the mana to go back to the prefixes. I'm looking to see if it's gonna actually just like luck into +1. It doesn't luck into +1 very frequently, which is why I say like you just use it to get the chaos res, and then again put the prefix back on. Can I get it really here? Oh, there we go. Lucked into +1 chaos. At which point, you know, craft the prefix, slam on a last suffix, and be done. Is also an option here. A lot of options on how you can make this +1. The +1 is a very simple, very easy craft. Very straightforward. It might cost you just a little bit of money because of like, you know, essence prices that may go up over the course of the league, etc., etc. Right? Now, let's do this again. This time we're going to make a +2. And I will not be doing the +2 like by hand because it is a little bit annoying. Because the first step in getting a +2 is alt spamming for +1 all. This assumes that you are not willing to just buy your +1, buy a fractured +1 all. If you are going for like alt spamming a +1, it is worth noting that the cost of alting a +1, alt +1 is in fact 1800, is about, it says 1800, but it also mentions 4,000 alterations. Either case is about 2 to 5 divines worth of alterations at current prices. And so current as of recording this video. So if you don't like that price point for the amount of clicking you might have to do, completely understand if you don't want to do this, right? If you don't want to go about it this way, you just want to like, you know, maybe buy a base and split it down or something, who knows? There's a number of ways. But the important thing is that you need to get to an item state that looks something like this. This is one of 2 ways to do it. I hit a regal on it and we have 1 suffix. So there's a world where you have 1 suffix and there's a world where you have 1 prefix alongside your +1 all. When you have a suffix, this craft gets notably cheaper and easier. Because all we're going to do from here is multi-mod, if it will let me multi-mod. Crafted. Okay, so you're going to go with multi-mod. Prefixes cannot be changed. You might be thinking, why multi-mod? Remember, I told you the important thing here is that we fill the suffixes. Nothing else matters. If you've seen other +2 crafts before, you might be thinking, where's the cannot roll attack modifiers? Remember, chaos only has the 1 prefix. The cannot roll attack modifiers is for all of the other damage types. Get fucked other damage types. Add remove chaos. Puts on +1 chaos, removes a suffix. We are good to go. Now, from here, I would personally just go ahead and we kept our prefixes can't be changed, which is really nice. It's going to save us a little bit of money. Because my next thought is we've got to scour this to leave us with just the +2. From here, you can just multi-mod on throwing speed and minus cost and then slam and exalt and pray. That is an option. Here's another option that I'm very fond of, though. This is a bit pricey, but because we're on a +2, I think it's worth it. Cannot be, you know, multi-mod prefixes cannot be changed. Put on minus cost, or I'm gonna put on mana because this has messed up in Path of Exile when I was like practicing this before to make sure that I didn't have too many stumble ups while recording this video. Mana, but this could just be minus cost. Toss a veiled orb on it. It will remove a suffix and adds a new suffix because we filled our prefixes. If I wanted to craft, like do the multi-mod and everything, we want to protect our prefixes while making sure the prefixes are full so that we can get a veiled suffix guaranteed. Let's pray for something good here. Mind throwing speed is exactly what we want. Lightning and chaos resistance would have been acceptable if we didn't have mind throwing speed here, but we were looking for mind throwing speed. Now, we don't need our crafted modifiers. I believe there should just be a thing for crafted modifiers. We can just straight up remove them both now. Right? Remove both crafted modifiers. And this is where I would consider just multi-modding it up. Is that you can just put on minus cost and a suffix of your choosing, which might just be strength int, for example. Could be other things. Unfortunately, crit multi is not a suffix that you can get via the crafting bench. So you'd have to pick something else. Like you could just do like min endurance charge if you wanted. It's another really strong option. Like maybe maybe this is your ideal endpoint, especially with the state of endurance charges right now. All of these are valid options. You pick your favorite way to craft this out. This gets you a very, very strong +2 that you will then anoint and, you know, run forward with until the end of time. And like I said, very straightforward, very deterministic process. In the event that we go all the way back down to this step here where we regold and it doesn't hit a suffix, right? We regal and this hits a prefix, this gets a little bit messier. And my recommendation is just to straight annul this unless you hit a good prefix. You can leave it there and just not have the minus cost if you want, but I'm just going to say it now. If you miss the annul like that, it's only a couple div to get it back. I would just, it's going to be soul crushing, but I would send the annul just because it's not worth having just bad +2. Like you can just make a really, really strong and efficient +1 for notably cheaper. And so if you're going to go for +2, you should go all out. Wow, that took 3 annuls. That's horrific, but then you're good. And then when you're multi-modding, just make sure that all of the suffixes are full. You'll have to craft a nothing burger of a third suffix just to make sure. And then the craft can go on as per usual. Now, let me show you this third one real quick. This time we're gonna get a little fancy. So I said I had a +4 for you. On a focus amulet, you can do a similar type of thing, except note, alterations do nothing on focus amulets. If you've never tried crafting on one of these, blue focus amulets don't have modifiers. So don't do that. Don't sit there and try to like alt spam it. You're gonna have to like chaos spam it or like out scour it, which is an incredibly cringe thing to think about. But it is how you would get there. You know, you would that's just not what I was looking for. You would have to, you know, chaos spam your way through to +1, and you would hate it because you would see all sorts of other stuff besides actual +1, and you'd be here for a little while. So I'm just gonna put it here as +1, and you just, you know, keep that in your mind that you would have to work a lot harder than what I'm about to do here to get +1 on this. So now it says +2. Here's the soul crushing part. Every time you hit the +1, you have to annul this down. And it's gone. And it's gone. And it's gone. And it's gone. Okay, now we've annulled it down to just +2 all. And it does need to be just +2 all for this to work. It cannot be +2 and something else. You do have to get this in isolation for this to work, as we are then going to craft. Prefixes cannot be changed. Once again, just like before, we don't have to worry about any of the damage types at all. And that means that we can just add remove chaos, slam that on for a second +2. Then we have +4 to our Hexblast. And then from here, you can just craft on mine throwing speed. And that is our insane amulet. Unfortunately, there's no way just to like get on, say like veiled throwing speed or anything without like risking the item. If you want to do some risky things instead of throwing speed, you could go for crit multi on something like this instead of a craft. You really could just go prefixes cannot be changed through a bristle matron and do a reforge crit and you know, maybe die of cringe. Like, yeah, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. That's T6. Nope. Like, this is okay. Like, if you hit this, it would be good. But every time you miss, you'd have to hit a 1 in 3 annul, or, you know, you'd have to go back steps, right? And nobody likes the sound of going back steps in this process. So, you know, that's why I just recommend, like, yeah, throwing speed is good enough. And throwing speed is an insane suffix anyways. If you play this build, you know how strong throwing speed is a suffix. So now, one more step that you can take, especially if you're at this point, right? Let's just say you've got infinite money, because focus amulets are super expensive. And this next step that I'm about to recommend to you is a way to straight brick this item. Just straight up brick this item. The reflecting mist from like the Kalandra League is in the game. They're only a div when I last looked. And it was like last night. They're a div. If for one div, you could gamble to create a +8 amulet with over 40% throwing speed on it, right? Like you could just catalyst this up with, I would, you know, catalyst this with, where is it at? Accelerating. Alrighty. Then we slap on one good old reflecting mist. And there's a world where this turns into +4, +4, and increases your throwing speed. And it's very worth noting. I say this could brick your build because it could straight up, they brick the amulet because they straight up could turn any of these negative. And if it turns any of these negative, this amulet is useless. So, you know, wouldn't do that before you've really got it like that. But I imagine if you're working on this type of project, you might already got it like that anyways, and you just want to go like the extra mile. One extra div isn't going to hurt if you have to recraft the whole thing because you could hit something absolutely insane and genuinely, well, one would call it mirror tier, except the item's already mirrored, so you can't, you can't mirror it anymore. Um, Anyways, technically speaking, you can do the focus mist thing on all of the steps of this process, but I only really wanted to show up for focused amulet because the focused amulet version just looks so insane. People would pay so much money for it whenever you're done with the character and wanted to sell it all off. Anyways, that's the crafting guide for the 3 types of amulets that I'm like eyeballing for Hexblast Miner. If you have any questions, again, drop those in the comments. If there's any optimizations to things, especially if you could think of a way that isn't just raw Alk Scour spamming it to hit +1 all on the focus amulet, that would be much appreciated. But I imagine that there's not really a good method for that out there. I think it's gonna end up being a lot like the 35 percenter for large cluster jewels, which is gonna suck, but is what it is. If you can think of anything better for that, that'd be awesome though. Otherwise, if you found this useful, I'm glad to have been of service, and thank you guys for watching. Again, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Also, there's a Twitch and a Discord in the description. Discord to come hang out and ask questions in chat and all that good stuff, or Twitch to come see me live when I'm streaming. I stream in the evenings. No super regular schedule besides it is in the evenings. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching. Peace. And I'll see you guys in the next one.